Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about emotional blackmail because it's miserable and I hate it. And whenever someone tries to use it on me, it doesn't work anymore. But I kind of, it's one of these things that I see people trying to use. I see people using without even realising it. I see people being squashed under it by other people. And it's one of these tactics that's just kind of, it's really mean. You know, and it can be really sinister and really harmful. It can be the beginnings of like the road to kind of actual versions of abuse, and so I wanted to kind of address it and talk through kind of firstly what it is, and then kind of onto kind of signs of it and things that you might hear and things like that, and as a result, it's something that the I see a lot of in various different places. And as said, when people try to use it on me, I just most of the time shrug it off or get pissed off with that person for trying, depending on how much I trust that person or expect it from that person. But the thing that it is, let's define it quickly. So emotional blackmail is where someone will use kind of fear or guilt or other kind of evocative kind of stimuli that evoke those kinds of feelings to generate insecurity in a person, to make them more pliable and essentially manipulate them. It's very kind of transactional. If I'm the emotional blackmailer, I'm going to come forward and I'm going to make you feel bad. I'm going to make you feel like you have wronged me, or like you should be fearful of the consequences of what I do next, or you should be guilty about something that has happened between us. And then the person that I'm doing that to, or me as a victim in this particular instance, as I feel victim is about the right word, you're a victim of blackmail. That person then, because it's a transaction, you've been paid in negative feelings and negative stimuli, and so as a result, then instead of like making it a conversation and bring it back, you then create a new result. Yeah, they have paid you in negative feelings to create a new situation, to create a new product of some description. It's very transactional, and it's usually entirely serving towards the emotional blackmailer. Sometimes it's born from negative emotions in the blackmailer, but sometimes it's just a shitty person being shitty. So warning signs, this is the stuff that people miss a lot. And sometimes they realise it even, but they don't know what to do with it. And so we'll get on to what to do with it later on. But some of the big warning signs are kind of them trying to manipulate your decisions or choices. Reacting very specifically in a negative way to something that they don't want you to do. And obviously, if I start running around with a knife and someone goes, "The hell are you doing? Stop running around with a knife," then obviously that's me being a prat and they're being kind of health and safety conscious. That's not emotional blackmail. But if it was like, I don't know, there's the stereotypical manipulative girlfriend, for instance, whereby you go, "I'm doing this thing," and then she goes, "Oh well, you if you love me, you wouldn't do that thing because I don't like that thing." It's pulling on those emotions. In that particular instance, the "if you loved me," it suggests that there's a consequence of, well, if you're going to do that, then it suggests you don't love her. If you don't love her and she's aware of it, then she's going to leave, or she's going to have more reason to do something else, more drastic, or to cheat on you or something like that. It instills that fear and it prompts you to change because you're afraid of the potential consequences. Or also, if you go, "Oh, maybe I don't love her enough," you feel really guilty. It brings you down. Because if she's suggesting that she loves you more and then it's not equal, or that she doesn't just love you unconditionally, then it's going to pull you down when all of a sudden it sounds like you don't care about her enough. Yeah, you feel guilty that you've brought this person that you actually care about along with you in one way or another, and it just drags you down. And it's again, usually to get some kind of response from you towards what they want, not what's necessarily even best for either of you. They'll intimidate you, again, probably with things like ultimatums, things like kind of always making you pick, it's your friends or me. It's very direct, it's very forceful, it's intimidation to an extent. It's really prompting you into, again, making that choice, making you feel guilty, making you feel down. But again, it's forceful, it's aggressive. It's the kind of person who makes the threat of going, well, I'll just leave you then. Oh, well, why am I even here? I'll just go. Yeah? And it's an attempt to pull you down. It's an attempt to bring you down to below their level so that they then have the power, so that then they can call the shots, get you to do what they want. One of the other things is that they will blame you for stuff that you haven't done, or suggest you haven't done something when you have. And, as a result, it makes you either feel like you need to work harder, to win back their affection, to gain the positive responses, and or it's a suggestion of like them trying to condition which behaviors they want to see in you, So if they're blaming you for something that you didn't do, then, blaming you for cheating, for instance, yeah? The controlling boyfriend or controlling girlfriend or whoever who's looked at your phone and seen a message from someone of the same gender as them, and they flip out and go, well, you must be cheating on me. They probably know you weren't. Sometimes there are insecure people that will flip out over anything, but when we're talking about emotional blackmail here, they probably know that you haven't been. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to use it as leverage against you to twist things around, to kind of force you into a kind of dangerous place. And then it's like they're going to then enjoy you trying to kind of work double time to win them back, to prove that you've not done anything. Yeah? Flipping it around the other way, turning it around so that they're saying, oh, well, you didn't do this. You didn't take care of these things whilst I was out. And so you're a terrible person. All I asked you to do was one thing. You haven't done it. The evidence for me doing it is right there. What are you saying? Of course I've done it. I did it straight away. No, you haven't. It's not the way that I wanted it done. It's not what I said to do. Blah, blah, blah. So even though, again, you've done it, they're saying that you haven't, and it's making you potentially feel guilty that you've not lived up to the expectation, you've not lived up to the task, you've not done what was asked of you. Even if you have, even if you followed it to the letter, they're still potentially going to do this because it keeps you down. And as you're down, they're up because they're able to stand on top of you to get there. And then, they'll potentially kind of they will make a big show of suffering in a turning themselves into the victim. And we've talked about intellectual bullies and victimhood, kind of professional victimhood before, but kind of they will make a big show of being the wronged party until you, out of embarrassment, out of shame, out of guilt, out of fear, will do whatever it takes to shut them up and make them happy again. Yeah, this is the tactic that you see used, in fact, in a lot of movements that are very we're the victim focused. Yeah, students at university who are crying racism when actually there isn't any, for instance, who are stepping out and going out on these big marches and making a lot of noise and kicking up a fuss, and they're doing it very publicly. It's all over social media. And then them emotionally blackmailing the entire institution, getting them to back down, getting them to crumble, getting them to do what they want, just to make them happy, just to make them shut up. So emotional blackmail, whilst we're talking about it mostly in regards to individual kind of relationships and things, it can be group versus group on a very large scale, and because each one of those groups is made up of individuals, it still pans out the same way. But then, of course, the last one, which borders on leaving emotional blackmail and into actual forms of abuse and stuff, is kind of the threat of either harm to you or harm to themselves. That insecure guy who the only way that he thinks he can keep his girlfriend with him is by going, oh well, I can't live without you, and if you go, then I'm just gonna have to kill myself. Yeah, there's enough kind of memeing around that already. But it does happen, and it's a miserable situation to put someone in. But obviously, that's where, once you get to that situation, once someone has pushed the blackmail to that kind of extreme, then that's where it then starts stepping out of just emotional blackmail as a transactional thing, and potentially either into physical harm or abuse of the individual that's being blackmailed, or in the case of, as said, the kind of memeable semi-suicidal or supposedly suicidal partner, potentially, if they follow through on it, harm to themselves. Which, as much as you may not care if you're being the person that's being crapped on by this individual, that's still a person damaging themselves over really stupid stuff. But then, we've got all of these various things floating around, and it can be really hard to tackle. It can be really hard to be aware of all of these different things, because, as said, if you're actually doing something that is worth someone responding to negatively, again, around health and safety, or around the fact that you weren't supposed to do a thing, being accountable for your action, whatever else, it kind of leads on to this issue of kind of the level of doubt being increased, the level of uncertainty. Was I being complained at because I don't think I was being unsafe, but then they flipped out like that. So was I being unsafe? Maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. That's how the seeds start getting planted, and then obviously over time you get worn down, you get used to being the weaker party, to being the one that's being manipulated without possibly even realizing it. Your resistance just gets worn down, you get tired. You get pushed down enough, eventually you're going to stay there. And so at that point, people don't realize, and that's why these people get walked over time and time again by people who do these things. So how do you tackle it? How do you deal with it? Well, especially when people are emotionally blackmailing without realizing it, then you can try talking it through, and you can try leaving it alone, cooling off, coming back, because sometimes things that are emotionally blackmailing will be said in the heat of a moment. And someone's flipping out, they're upset, and they want to gain back power. Yeah, if they're upset, if they're feeling down, if they're insecure, if they're worried, then they want to gain back control. And so in the heat of a moment, someone might come out and follow through on some of these really crappy things that we've just gone through. But again, with those kind of situations, as I've said, with other argument-based stuff before, where it's actual conflict, taking a break, going away, coming back, actually addressing it as adults, talking it through, and maybe even writing stuff down so that you've got kind of things to compare against and discuss between you. That's going to be the best way to sort out those heat of the moment kind of interactions. It's where actually talking stuff through and working stuff out prevails over just you then taking a very strong stance against what they just did, when there might be a middle ground that can still be reached. If, though, it's everyday calm behaviors that then are being punished, being flipped out against, stuff like that, then the way to deal with it is kind of establish a very clear boundary. Yeah, and don't allow for kind of the perceptions that other people are impressing on you to change that. Yeah. So for instance, when I'm dealing with I don't know, something, pick a topic. I'm dealing with work and money and like career, yeah? In which case, you know, if people are going to come and start throwing negative kind of impressions on me, then the thing is, well, I know what I've done. I know what I'm doing. I have evidence of both. And as a result, is what is being said reasonable? If that's the case and it is reasonable, it's a reasonable criticism or it's a reasonable thing to say, then fine, let's have a discussion about it. If it's not though, and it's just them impressing their insecurities on me because they don't feel in control, then again, that's where the coming and sitting down and having the discussion to work out how you can sort that out helps. If they're just throwing it at you to try and get you to do what they want, which can be for various different reasons, everyone has their own agenda, then that's where you draw the line and go, no, I know what I'm doing, I know what I've done, and I've got the evidence for both. In which case you've got, like, especially also if with partners that are apart or people that aren't relying on each other for survival or anything like that. You know, I hear this from married couples where they're emotionally blackmailing each other back and forth and it just doesn't work. You know, the thing that stands out there then is, well, they're having to survive with each other. So fine, they need to sit down and have a much bigger conversation. If you're apart though, then resorting to the, I know what I've done, I know what I'm doing, I have evidence of both, then again, that's all you need. That should be all you need to shore up your defenses against emotional blackmail and help you realize that that's what they're coming at you with. You know, and as a result, the more, you know, you need to hold strong with that, because the more you give in to emotional blackmail and these similar kind of tactics that manipulate you and try and get you to do what other people want, the more you give in, the worse it gets. As said, the more you get pushed down, eventually you're going to learn that that's where you stay. You know, hit someone enough times, yeah, you can keep trying to get up, but eventually you're going to wear out and you're going to stay down. There's no real choice in that in the long term. So don't give in the first place. Start as you mean to go on. But then there's obviously that more severe end of things with the people who are actually threatening your interactions with other people, or who are kind of deliberately, publicly kind of making your life hard when just so that you will attempt to make them happier, or especially when people are kind of threatening various forms of violence, be it violence to you, be it violence against themselves. These are the situations where it's then time to leave. Yeah? Time to leave. And in the case of the people who are threatening harm, possibly seek the authorities. If you have serious reason to believe that someone is about to commit suicide and they're not just blowing hot air, seek the help from the authorities. If you've got someone who is threatening you harm, constantly threatening you harm as a means of this kind of manipulation, seek help from the authorities. It is what they're there for. They are there as much for kind of civil, small-scale protection as they are for tackling bank robberies, terrorist attacks, and everything else. So involve them if it gets to that stage and you are genuinely concerned and cannot, especially if you cannot escape. But anyway, guys, I hope this is useful and interesting. It's a horrible thing, emotional blackmail. It happens all the time. As said, lots of people do it without realizing it. It can happen in the heat of the moment. It can happen when someone is being cool, calm, cold, and kind of just I fucked up saying that, but when they're just planning your downfall, cool, calm, and calculating. That's what I was aiming for. But you know, it's a tough one, and it's very, very easy to get stuck into, but very, very hard to then get out of again afterwards. But anyway, guys, as said, I'd love to know what your experiences are down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. And if you've got any advice as well for people who are in this situation, one that you may have been in the past and you want to move on from, or want to help them move on from, you know, just leave it down in the comments. You know, let's have this conversation. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed or found this video interesting at all, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.